What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the best phones, old flagships that you can get for in that $400 price range. So let's go ahead and get started here with the S22 Ultra. This phone had a pretty amazing price drop. It was always around that upper 500 area, and I found it for 424 on Amazon right here, and I think that's a excellent deal. It's a really good deal for this type of phone here. It's got the aluminum frame. It's pretty much got the same design of an S23 and S24 for the most part. It's IP68 dust and water resistant. It's got the same camera design. Again, it just looks pretty much identical. You got the built-in S Pen as well too, and then you also do have the matte finish on here. It does have that boxy feel where it kind of cuts into the hand, so just do note that. But a lot of people do like the design on here. Now it's got a pretty big 6.8-inch dynamic AMOLED panel. It's HDR10 plus, 1750 nits peak brightness at 1440p, 540 ppi. Overall, a beautiful panel. The big difference is what Samsung's doing with the newer stuff is with the S23, they slightly slimmed down the curved display, and now it's completely gone with the S24. So if you do like the super curved display look, the S22 Ultra does offer that. So this phone, it does have a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, which is very fast speed wise. It's still gonna feel pretty much identical to the S23 and S24. Gaming performance is still pretty solid on this device as well too. No issues with that. It got the One UI 6 update with the Android 14, and this phone is supposed to get the Galaxy AI features as well too. So we'll be excited to see that. But yeah, performance on here is nice. For the most part, I do think the phone gets a little bit warmer than I would like, but I think Samsung addressed that with the newer ones, but I've never had it crash on me or anything like that. You have 128 gigs of internal storage, 8 gigs of RAM on the base model. The speakers are okay on here, they're not my favorite. The under the display fingerprint sensor works fine, face unlock is on here. You do have a excellent camera system on here. It's 108 megapixel standard, 10 megapixel telephoto with 3 times optical, 10 megapixel periscope telephoto with 10 times optical, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide. You also have 8K24 with a 40 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 60. Excellent photos on here. You get to take advantage of the zoom photography on here as well too, and it just comes out really clean. I love the zoom shots on here. Of course, you have the 100 times zoom on here. Excellent cameras. Battery life is just okay on the S22. So it's got a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. It's 45 watt charging. You do have wireless and reverse wireless charging. This screen, I can get around close to 6 hours of screen on time. Like I said, it's not as good as the S23 and S24. I think battery life is just kind of average on here. But for the most part, I think this phone is excellent for 400 bucks. All right, next is the Galaxy S23. I think this is one of my personal favorites on the list. And again, this is 400 bucks on Amazon. And I absolutely love this phone. A lot of people don't like these smaller flagship phones, I guess. But this is a really good one, and I think a lot of people don't like them because of the battery life, but this one has excellent battery life, so we'll talk about that later. Now, if you do want an alternative to this, there's a S23 FE with a bigger screen as well, so that could be an alternative. But yeah, if you're into kind of smaller phones, this one, it feels excellent in the hands. Aluminum frame, it's IP68 dust and water resistant, and it has the up-to-date modern design, pretty much identical to the S24. So this one has a 6.1-inch dynamic AMOLED display. It's HDR10 plus, 1750 nits peak brightness at 6.1 inches, 1080p, 425 for the PPI. Just a beautiful panel. It's completely flat, super slim bezels on here as well too. I just absolutely love the design and the display on here. It's just very nice, bright, vibrant panel. So this phone, it got the Android 14 update, of course, and it's running the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. And this one, it will get the Galaxy AI features as well if it hasn't already gotten it. And yeah, so I just absolutely love this phone for this price point. It's very powerful as well too. Gaming, whatever you want to do on it, it's very efficient. It doesn't get super hot and stuff like that. It's just a really good phone for anybody who wants something a little bit smaller. 128 gigs of internal storage and 8 gigs of RAM. It is on the base model. This phone does have stereo speakers on board, which sound pretty good for the size of this device. You also do have the ultrasonic fingerprint scanner, face unlock, all that stuff. And the highlight with this phone is that the cameras are excellent at 400 bucks. It's a 15 megapixel standard, 10 megapixel telephoto with 3 times optical, a 12 megapixel ultra wide. It shoots in 8K 30, and then you also have a 12 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 60. It pretty much takes identical photos to the S24. So you're really getting, a current flagship quality photos for the most part. Yeah, there are some minor differences from me having the S24 and S23, but they almost pretty much look identical. So you're getting a really, really good camera for the price that you're paying with this phone. So video is also very solid on this phone as well too. So overall, I just love the camera system in general. So the highlight with this phone, I think, is battery life is actually way better than you think. It's a 3900 milliamp hour battery, but thanks to the processor on here and Samsung's optimization, the battery life is excellent on here. It's a 25-watt wired charging though, wireless and reverse wireless charging. This phone easily lasts all day. It's really like a day and a half phone. And yeah, I was just really impressed with the battery life when I got this phone. So just an excellent phone to consider. Now, for all my iPhone lovers, the iPhone 13 is 100% the phone that you should be looking at. It is a very impressive phone. I was really impressed using this phone. Again, you can find it for that $400 price point on Amazon. And yeah, there was nothing I really didn't like about this phone. The design on here, like I said, is very modern. It pretty much looks like the newest iPhone 14 and 15, at least from the back. It's got the aluminum frame. It's IP68 dust and water resistant. It has a very nice design. So the 13 does have a 6.1 inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. It gets up to 1200 nits peak brightness. It is a 1170 by 2532 resolution display, 460 for the PPI. It's a fantastic display. Color wise, very color accurate. And I think my only issue with the iPhone displays is that I think the notch is definitely a little bit outdated in 2024. That's my only issue with the display on here. But for the most part, I think people who are accustomed to iPhones probably won't mind it. But yeah, the display on here is fantastic for the most part. And also, there's no 120 hertz with this display as well too, which is a little disappointing. But again, I don't think people who are accustomed to using iPhones, I don't think it'll bother them too much. So this phone has a crazy fast processor. It has the Apple A15 chip, and it is a beast when it comes to performance. I mean, it's really, really fast in benchmarks as well too. Still, it is just a performer. It plays anything you throw at it. Call of Duty, PUBG, whatever is in the App Store, it will pretty much blow through it. So if you want to do gaming on here as well, this phone will definitely be able to do that. You have 128 gigs of internal storage, 4 gigs of RAM. Very nice sounding stereo speakers on board. Of course, you have Face ID on board and all that good stuff. The cameras on here are definitely another highlight. I'm a huge fan of iPhone video. I think they still have some of the best video, very natural, great dynamic range. And also this takes great photos as well too. It's a 12 megapixel standard, 12 megapixel ultra wide. It shoots in 4K 60 with a 12 megapixel selfie that also shoots in 4K 60. I think fantastic shots on here. Still flagship quality photos for the most part. And like I said, video I think still is excellent on here. So you do have pretty decent battery life for the most part. It's a 3240 milliamp hour battery. I was able to squeeze a day out of this phone, no problem. You also have the MagSafe charging on here along with your standard wireless charging. So the iPhone 13 is just an excellent phone. It'll get software updates for years and years to come. So that's really nice too. So this is just a really nice buy here in 2024. All right, next I want to talk about the OnePlus 10T. This is a phone that kind of flew below the radar, and you can find this actually around like $350. And I really like this phone. It has a unique feature that I really like. So it's got a plastic frame, it's got a glass back, so it still has a kind of like a premium look and feel to it, which is something that I like. So this phone has a 6.7 inch fluid AMOLED display. It's 120 hertz HDR10 plus. It's 1080p 394 for the PPI, and overall it's a really nice panel. Great colors, very smooth. This phone does have the Oxygen OS 13, which I actually really like. The skin is really nice. It's very fluid and smooth. I like how everything is laid out as well too. That was actually a highlight for me. This phone has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 on here as well too. So it's plenty, enough fast for any type of gaming or just pretty much whatever you're doing. It's just a very snappy phone. Like I said, Oxygen OS plays a big role in that. I think it's just really fluid. You have 128 gigs of internal storage and 8 gigs of RAM. Really, nice sounding stereo speakers on here. The under the display fingerprint scanner is fine. It's an optical one. But I think that the cameras also are pretty good on here. It's a 15 megapixel standard, 8 megapixel ultra wide, has a 2 megapixel macro, it shoots in 4K 60, and a 16 megapixel selfie camera, and that shoots in 1080 30. So you're not getting the best video settings as far as a selfie cam goes, and you don't have a dedicated telephoto lens on here as well too. So the shots came out pretty good for the most part, especially from the main sensor. But the highlight with this phone for me was that this phone's battery life was really, really good. It's got a 4800 milliamp hour battery, and the charging speed on here was absolutely nuts. It's 150 watt for the wired charging. So there's no wireless charging, but when I tell you the 150 watt charger, and they do include it in the box, it was crazy fast. So if you going somewhere and you're like at 10-15%, you just put this on the charger. Man, it's just crazy how much battery life you get back in just a couple minutes. So this is just an awesome phone, and like I said, you can find this $350, even cheaper. I think 250 bucks. So it's just a really good phone to consider. Last on the list is the Galaxy Z Flip 5. Now this phone is a little bit more expensive. So it's around $450 to $470. So it is really kind of up there, getting close to $500. But I really, really like this phone, guys. So this phone, it is a folding phone, right? So it can become a kind of a compact phone as well too. It's got the aluminum frame. I really like the design. It's IPX8 water resistant, and yeah, I just really love the design. The folding mechanism on here is really firm. Yeah, I just really love. I just was a big fan of this phone. My audience wasn't too much into it, so I didn't make too many videos on it, but it was a really cool experience, especially using the the whole flip mechanism, right? So when you unfold the phone, it has a 6.7-inch display. It is a dynamic AMOLED, HDR10 plus, 1750 nits peak brightness, 1080p 425. It's a classic Samsung display, and the outside display is a 3.4-inch Super AMOLED display, and that one is really sharp as well too. It has 306 ppi, and overall just two beautiful displays. It is a very tall phone as well too. It's a very tall and narrow phone as well. Of course, you got the latest Android 14, Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, very fast phone. You can pretty much throw anything at it, and you'll have good gaming performance and just performance in general. So the base is 256 gigs and 8 gigs of RAM, which is really nice. And then you also have stereo speakers, which sound pretty decent on here. The fingerprint scanner is side mounted, which I love. It's a physical one, and like I said, I absolutely love it. It's very natural feeling. And then the cameras on here are pretty good. It's a 12 megapixel standard, 12 megapixel ultra wide. It shoots in 4K 60, and then you have a 10 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 30. So the image quality was very good from this camera. Again, flagship quality stills on here. They're just missing the telephoto lens. Of course, they can't, pretty much add that, I guess, because of the size of it. But yeah, so overall, the image quality was fantastic on here, and battery life really wasn't that bad at all. It has a 3700 milliamp hour battery. It's 25 watt wired charging, and it also has the wireless and reverse wireless charging one here. Battery life easily lasted me a day. So this is just a really cool phone for people who want something compact and you want something folding. Yeah, I just absolutely love this phone. So if you like this form factor, definitely check this out. Like I said, a little bit expensive, but definitely I think worth it if you like the form factor. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.